The surge of the LGBT and now gender neutral, gender fluid, and a variety of other titles associated with people that identify or at least recognize genders that are neither male nor female, and or something in between, or seems to be linked, at least to me, to a combination of several political and cultural changes in our society. For the sake of this discussion, I will simplify down to two, although there are many other factors. First, the fall of a moral, virtuous people, which traditionally is linked to a strong religious belief structure, which is why morality and religion have fallen in sync, even though they're not the same thing. And this tends to be to correlate with people who are willing to forego the starting a family and forego giving into temptation. At least that was the traditional way. Forgo having sex with your partner, forgo those sorts of things, and it's reached the point now where it takes so long to accumulate wealth and accumulate the means to acquire wealth and land, and thereby the means to start a family, that it's sort of reached a point where people are no longer willing to do those things, combined with the fact that we've lost this morality and religion. And there are many good moral teachings in the Bible and other religions, but there are many ways in which the religions themselves, or the constructs that surround them, have become corrupt and immoral, and a means to control people. A discussion all its own can be dedicated to this topic, and I'm in no way advocating that Christianity or other modern religions is the way back from all this societal mess, because I don't necessarily think that at all. But there was undeniably a moral fabric to society that has been torn, and something, at least in part, of value there that has been lost. Nevertheless, and secondly, surviving as a young male has become very difficult in Western culture, and is being destroyed in the West. And I think that it's partly because there can be only so many alpha males, and we are heading back to a more primitive societal structure where only the alpha males can procreate. And traditionally we have been a society with many successful males in many, if not all or most, professional fields, and blue-collar fields. Now there's not so much, and the laws and culture are to blame for that. It's not just choice, even though that's what people are being told it is. When the laws change and culture changes, and you see less competition, more waste, and a slower economy, less population growth, independent of immigration, how can we classify what's happening as a choice so much as a response? It is a response to bad policy that we see death. Death is what this is, because people are trying to survive and they can't. So maybe the choice as a man is to grow gray and bald at an early age and take a decade off your lifespan relative to your female peers, or become more feminine. And when I say death, I mean that it's a more sophisticated form of death. It's subtle and sophisticated. It's not genocide of the people that are alive today. It's been said that there's been 100 billion people that have lived on the earth. Today there's maybe around 7 billion. But in the grand scheme of things, the variable that changes is time. and time and is fundamentally the weapon of choice. The economics are also a weapon for destroying the means for life to exist. So that's what I mean by death. It's we have all the food, more food than we could possibly imagine, and more resources than we could possibly imagine. In fact, we're saturated with those things, and perhaps that's why we're so unwilling to really strive for something more in relative terms to compete in the means of production, because traditionally the vast majority of people start out in the service industry, and the only choice they have is to sell their services, and so they have no control over the means of production. I think it's a fallacy to treat the means of production, as an aside note, as a sort of a as sort of a construct, as a thing. It's more of something that evolves, and people as they gain wealth, it really comes down to money. Then you can, then you have a chance at actually hiring people and doing those sorts of things. So it comes down to money and time and accumulating those things. But the issue has become very subtle and sophisticated. So death is something that is something that a word that I used here, but it's really a destruction of the means for people to survive and to compete, and that has future consequences for population growth. But back to what I was saying, the choice that people are making, it's more a response, and it's a defense mechanism, I think, of young people or young generation within a developed Western matriarchal culture that's running out of ways to take and take from the ordinary working man, and it's abhorrent. I believe men are born with the potential for a unique characteristic independent of women, which is honor. The men that have honor are the way we've built civilizations, and that honor may be only among 1 in 1,000 men, but among women you'll find none. That's a quote that it's attributed to someone else. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I find it particularly enlightening. Honor is something that we've built our civilization off of. We destroy honor when we exploit men and their resources and deceive to the point where it's just survival, that men become protectionist. And I don't mean that in the common definition. I mean that in a more literal interpretation of what the derivative of that word should mean in a very personal sense. And that's the most animalistic, primitive type of behavior, where we immediately jump to hoarding and using violence and force, or in the case of humans, laws that effectively do the same in order to protect and shield them. And that is at the heart of all of this, I think.